It's time to get your geek on
You complete me.
with Dave Gramillion.
Goose showed me something earlier in the week, and this kind of got my attention in a way that I think we should all change how ratings are done. I'm using air quotes here with my ratings. In the beginning, back in the day when there were, all of 3 channels and the remote control was the youngest person in the room, and you just kind of gave him a little nudge with your foot and said, go change the channel from 3 to 4.
And Arm Day was going to the UHF channels.
There you go. Nielsen was the ratings system. That's what shows lived and died by Nielsen's ratings and Sweeps Week. And we learned
However flawed that system is.
Yeah. And we learned all sorts of new words like 18 to 49 and 7 to 10 p.m. and Fridays are death days.
And 2+ and 12+. And
absolutely. And households of this, that, and the other, and all sorts of demographics. That's been that way for, I kid you not, 50, 60, 70 years. But now all of a sudden, we're starting to look at ratings in an entirely new manner, something completely different. And that's what we're calling conversations. All right, so what is a conversation? This is a new way of looking at it, and this is what might have killed Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Iron Fist dropped almost 100,000 online conversations between the first season premiere and the second season premiere. So what does that mean? It means fewer hashtags. It means fewer ats and tags and things along those lines. That's what they're looking at, those impressions. Of every time you do, wow, that hashtag Daredevil episode was the greatest thing ever.
That's a conversation.
That's a conversation. And then somebody retweets that or they reply to it, and that keeps the conversation going.
Hey guys, y'all should really watch at Marvel's hashtag Daredevil show on at Netflix.
Exactly. So when we say that Iron Fist dropped almost 100,000 conversations, that's a lot. That's 100,000 fewer people talking about this show. Now, the way Nielsen works, now correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
The way
hasn't stopped me before.
The way Nielsen works is basically it's an honor system.
Well, not only that.
You promised.
So
that's part of it, though.
So, household has a box. That household represents X number of households in that area.
It's a sample size.
And then same thing with the diaries. That diary that you get represents X amount of households.
Right.
And with the box, it's not really the honor system because it can actually detect. But with the diaries, it is the honor system. So you fill it out, you send it off, and there you go.
That being said, though,
but that's a very flawed way of doing it, because if you're a fan of Magnum and everybody else in your area isn't a fan of Magnum PI, then...
And not only that, but what if, let's say, the box records that you're watching Felicity, and that's because, your little girl got an A in a biology exam, and so she's rewarded with watching Felicity, and nobody else cares in the household of 18 people about Felicity.
Or you're a single male, so you're watching football while everybody around you is watching Star Wars Resistance.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so it's a flawed system. However, you can track all of these things on social media. Everything that's trending on Twitter, that's something that these market analysts are taking a very close look at. So Iron Fist dropped 100,000 conversations between season 1 premiere and season 2 premiere. It had a mere 20,000 Instagram and Twitter posts. Now, I know 20,000 sounds like a lot. When you think about it, you think about it, but that's, I think that's the entire population of the Northeast Independent School District High School
in San Antonio.
That's one school district in San Antonio. I think they have 7 high schools at about 3,000 apiece.
That's about the size of my hometown.
Yeah,
about 20,000.
So that's really not a lot, and you can spin the ratings any way you want with Nielsen, but that's nothing.
The one thing that I like about digital is that it's easily trackable, easily verified, and easily consumable to people who are apt to analyze these things. So like me, for instance, I love just going through numbers and being a numbers guy. That's just what I am. And so when somebody says, hey, like for instance, sometimes our sponsors ask for numbers, whether they be, podcast downloads, which we can find, followers on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, which we have readily available, subscribers on YouTube, not just page views, but also video views, like when we do our videos on Facebook and YouTube and all of that. That's easy. That's easily digestible, easily accessible. The problem is you live by the rating, you die by the rating.
Right.
So if your entire thing is, you know what, We're going to rely on the masses to get word out about our show and to talk about it. And that's how we're going to gauge the effectiveness of this program. If all of a sudden those conversations drop or turn negative, then you're not bringing in new people.
Right.
Now, as another example here, Luke Cage, that was recently canceled, went from 300,000 conversations on Instagram and Twitter to just under 50,000.
Ooh.
Season 2's premiere couldn't reach 50,000.
So they dropped 250K out of 300K. That's like a 75%, 80% drop.
It's a lot. It's 80% drop.
80% drop. I mean, that's massive.
And that's the same thing that Iron Fist suffered too, was 80%.
And that's how they justify, no one's talking about you guys. Oh, but our Nielsen ratings, nobody's talking about you guys. So off they went.
Now, of course, we don't get views off of Netflix. Doesn't release their views, their downloads,
True.
download equivalent, and neither does Hulu that I'm aware of. Things like that. So we don't know what the ratings are. We just know what the impressions are, or when they choose to release them.
With the impressions that low, though, I mean, who knows how many people actually watched it? Because I mean,
whatever you're watching, you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge drop, especially for like Luke Cage. I mean that's like a shocking number. Like you go from 300,000 people, like you filled the whole stadium, and then you come back next year and it's just that section 106, and that's all you have filled.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
it's
you take so let's put it in terms we understand. So Spurs draw 20,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they draw 5,000.
Exactly. And that's got to be beating people down when they see that too, as actors and people that work on it. But I wonder if they would ever release their numbers, like how many times was it streamed? How many times was it downloaded?
I don't think we'll ever know that. I think that's proprietary to Netflix, and they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Hashtag Daredevil has 150 tweets in the last half hour. Hashtag Daredevil. So to give you an idea about impressions and trending and all that kind of fun stuff. I mean, if you're going to watch it, you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And people love to say what sucks, and people love to say what rocks. And if no one's talking about you at all,
well, more people will have to talk about what sucks than what rocks.
that is true. If it bleeds, it leads. But if you look at it this way, the worst thing that can happen is nobody talks about you.
And that's what's happened.
That is the worst thing. Like when we broke the story about Alamo City Comics closing, people were talking all about us. It was all negative. Well, it was mostly negative. We ended up being right, by the way. But at the same time, at least people were talking about us. The worst thing that I can do is post something on our Facebook page and nobody likes, comments, or shares it.
Yeah. It just dies in the water.
If I get 55 comments and they're all negative, I'm actually okay with that, depending, of course, on what it is. But, it's all about the conversation. So this is the new rating system going forward.
That's the old pro wrestling adage. Don't care if you like me. Don't care if you hate me. You're reacting to me.
You're talking to me. That's exactly it. So that's the important thing to take out of this is look at what's trending. Look at what conversations are going on. If there are no conversations going on about your product or your service or your show, it ain't gonna last long. I'm just saying.